Good morning, everyone. Got some sanding to do. I've still got some carving to do on the snowman. We'll put him over there. I had actually needed to do some sanding on my little tree here, which came out of a piece of wood like that. It's cypress, and it was old, free lumber that I got from a friend, and so far that's what I've carved out of it. I've got a little bit of work to do, but I needed to do some sanding so I could clarify what it was I was seeing. These are number 6 screws that I found at my local Ace Hardware. This is a Turner's sanding pack. Different grits, you can see 150, 240, up to 600. Everybody can read. Good for you. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a number of these discs in different grits so I don't have to stop the workflow and make sandpaper, or to make sanding discs. So I'm going to go ahead and make a bunch of them. So what do I need? I need a piece of wood, and we will use, this is heart poplar, and I need something to poke a hole with. Hole poking instrument. 5. And I want to say it was $19, $20. It was $20 for the whole pack. Jeez, I got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Is that right? I know this is riveting, so we'll speed it up. I made myself half a cribbage board here to put my pieces on. Stay. So I've got a drill. I will drill. It's not an exact process. It's just actually getting a hole. Some will stick out more on other sides than others, and that's okay. Alright, so these washers, they're hard to see when they're that tiny, but they do have a kind of a rounded side and a flat side. The flat side is duller, and that's what we're going to do, is we're going to put that flat side pointing towards the sandpaper on our screw. Then we're going to put our pieces of sandpaper on there with the rough side facing the end, of course. 2, 3, and 4. Then we're going to put a screw with the flat side facing the sandpaper again. And then we're going to put our lock washer on. We're going to go ahead and grab the nut with a pair of pliers. Grab our handy dandy drill. And then we're just going to tighten it up. Once it's tight, you're good to go. Look at that grain. Look how pretty that grain is. Someone somewhere is going to say you cut down a tree so that you can make a tree. Seems wasteful. This tree was already cut down to make boards. This is actually the waste that would have went in the burn pile. So I'm actually saving. I'm doing good work here. Alright, I'm going to have to turn on my air cleaner. Hold on one sec. Okay, that's going to be really loud. But you can see it works just fine. Now, some of you'd say I like the look, it looks more like a tree that way, and I would have to agree with you. So if you don't want to sand it too much, instead of using this, 150 grit, we could sand with a 600 grit. Now there you can see, after that small bit of sanding, what I've got left. Plenty still. So if you want to make your sanding disc just a little bit larger, the strips of paper, just a little bit larger, you'll have a little bit more left over. There is a point where you're messing up the balance. So if we use one of the higher grits, the 600, which is a lot smoother, it would not take off as much wood. And so we could change what we're sanding here. Now, to be honest with you, I've got some carving left I need to do on here, so I'm going to actually carve some more on it. And I just wanted to let you see that you could create your own disc and sand your work for less price, even though it is a little bit more work. But I've got lots of time. I don't have nearly as much money as I'd like. So I'm going to go ahead and make the rest of these discs, and y'all can watch. Alright, I'll put that over there. Yeah, makes sense there, Gordy. My grandfather called me Gordy. All my cousins and aunt and uncle, everybody calls me Gordy. My grandfather, he would say, yeah, Gordy, them damn washers need to go on right. They need to go on right, son. Alright, put her on the back, same piece. We'll go ahead and sand right up in there. You can see there's a lot of scars from the aggressive burrs. We'll go ahead, turn that on. I see it left a lot of the scarring in there. It further smooths out the spots you've already done. Smelling very cypressy in here. Right, so you can see you've left some of the hard edges with a higher grit. So you're not shaping as much with this as you are simply sanding. It's hard with the light to catch it, but you can see there's all sorts of edges there, which is a lot better than what here ends up being smooth because you took too much off. You don't want to necessarily be looking at the grain of the wood, although that is part of the beauty of working with wood. You want to be able to see the design of the shape that you're trying to create here. See, that smoothed it all out, but you can see the edges in that piece right there a little better than if I used a higher grit to take out more of the material. And that's not my intention, really. Now, obviously I've made this head a lot larger, and so I can't fit into these small areas with this, but it's really just for the larger areas. If you can create your own sanding heads, you can create the sizes you need to get into the areas you want. That made a nice deep area right there, which is kind of a visual, draws your eye, but you have to round it off too. It's alright making it deep, that's alright. You just leave your sandpaper too long, you'll burn it, but you want to make it round too. You want to make it smooth. This is cypress, and so cypress likes being smooth. I say that as an artist, not necessarily as a guy that created cypress. But your eye's okay with it. Now you say, look at that, I can barely see that here. But you have to be aware that when you actually finish this piece and you put whatever clear coat or varnish or polyurethane or whatever it is you're going to put on there, these holes here will actually, I say come alive, but they'll come alive, and you'll be able to see what it is you were thinking you were working on. You have to be able to see the final piece, or it's hard to know where to work. You have to see what you're going to be done with here. Now see, look at how rough that is in there. That's really rough. And is it nice that way? I don't know. It makes you see that it's, as you put the piece down somewhere, I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but as you put the piece down, it's rough in there, and you would think that it would be rough in there. It's dark, and you really can't see, and it's not smooth, and luckily enough, there's a big old knot in there, so that does give us a little character in that particular hole. I really need to do a little more work on that knot hole before I call it done. And of course, this could use some work as well. That screw head will catch, so you have to be careful. But some of the character, look, lint from my pocket. How nice. Adds to the piece. Now it's a composition. The character of the wood, being just rough here. Was it, broken off in a storm? Was it just rotted and it finally blew over, or it just fell? What happened to this piece? You don't know. I cut these pieces in there, so it's not like it's as a guess. This reminds me that do not sand or do anything carving with your blade or with your high spinning wheel pointed at your face, because then you get your pieces in your face. Alright, so using a higher grit has saved some of the integrity of the project. Now, I'm not done. Obviously, I can't just say, look, I shouldn't have done that and I'm done. I can carve a little bit more, and you can see how that edge has some character to it. That side has all these indentations, and it's just undulating is the word I seems to come to mind. But see how this side is smoother, and you end up seeing the grain of the wood, which again has a beauty of its own, but it changes what the project is. And so that's the difference between 150 grit and 320 grit. When you're making your sandpaper wheels, you need to make more than one. You can't just do the 150 grit. You got to get your higher grits in there too. And like I said, some of the, and to use a term from Bob Ross, sorry, your happy accidents that kind of made their way into your piece, you don't erase the happy accidents, because happy accidents are excellent things in a piece. Let me go ahead and turn on my air cleaner, because I'm really getting a lot of dust. That's not good for your lungs. So don't run it too fast, you'll tear your sandpaper up. Sandpaper isn't integral. It's integral. Let's not use that word. Let's use one that people understand, that young people would understand. Sandpaper is very important to your work. It's just as important as anything else you're doing. Understanding the sandpaper, what it does, what it doesn't do, and what you don't want it to do. You're the king of your piece here. So whatever it is you're going to do, that's up to you. But you being in charge, you don't want to ruin your own work. So I'll just sand it a little bit here. I'm going to carve for just a second. I know this is more of a sandpaper video, but I'm going to carve for just a second. This is where those people that have 2 or 3 units, I envy them. I don't have 2 or 3 units. I have 1 unit. So I have to switch my piece back and forth. And I'll put him back over in the cribbage board, but I'm going to put him in a different spot so I know that he is a different width. He doesn't fit my cribbage board easily. 15.2, 15.4, pair for 6. Knobs is 7. Okay. I was going to carve. So what I'd like to do is raise the lip here. So in order to do that, everything else has to go back. Luckily, that means all this stuff that I've already worked on needs to be, that I over sanded here, these parts that are now flat, which I really, it's okay. I mean, it's in its own way, it's beautiful, but not as beautiful as, you know, having some of the, what actually looks like wood. Wood is just not a smooth pillar in the woods. It's got its own characteristics, so we can put some more characteristics back in here, and I can cut that down a bit right through there, and that would make this point a little bit more prominent. But I want to work on that hole just because it's my piece, and if I want to work on a hole, I can do that. So anyway, again, this piece started out as that, sort of. Not exactly, but I'm pretty close to that piece. Maybe shorter. But that's what that piece started out as. And whatever it is that you do very well, maybe I make wood spirits very well, maybe I make trees very well, maybe I make animals really well. Whatever it is you see in those pieces of wood, that's what it can be for you. So that's what it is for me. So I'm going to go ahead and carve on it. I'm going to use the aggressive, I've got several in my cribbage board. I have several of the aggressive pieces. I've got unspecified, non-named aggressive burrs that are not sponsoring me, so therefore I will not speak their name. But I've got several. I'm going to go with the flame burr because it is a kind of a very versatile all-around. I got to get round for the inside. I've got to get, you know, kind of a wider for the diameter, and maybe for the outside as well. So flame burr is what I'm using. And we'll go ahead and put the cribbage board. 15.2, 15.4, 15.6. We'll run a 3 for 9. All right, go ahead, start this. All right, so I'm going to go around the inside, and now it looks like that. So we'll do a little bit here. Very carefully. Try and make that knot hole. It's not symmetrical because there are symmetrical things that show up in nature, and it's odd when you see them.
but they're there. But when you try and recreate nature and you try and make it all symmetrical, well, then it doesn't look right. Alright, so we're making these lines try and meet each other. We're going to indent that a little. We'll just take a little bit of the top off of that. Alright. Alright, so we've gone down here, and it's kind of looks like a sharp edge, and that's alright. We'll fix that here in just a second. And it's not necessarily fixing, we'll smooth it out here in just a second. Alright, now do we need to work with that at all? Let's clean it off. Do we make it deeper? It's always neat to be able to come up to a tree and find a hole like that and worry about sticking your head over it, because what in the world's in there? Maybe I don't want to stick my head over this really deep, dark hole. But again, it's our tree. I can do what I want. Is the top right like that? Can we even make this hole a little bit deeper? Or almost make it look like a seat. Sometimes people make benches and such out of old logs. It's understandable. It's really neat looking. You look at our piece, and we're just making a really cool looking tree that, maybe it just sits on your desk. Maybe it sits on your dresser in your room. But it's something for you to look at, even if someone else doesn't like it. Not everybody likes everything. Some people like all sorts of things. So, some people think, well, that's just ugly. And some people will look at what I'm doing here and go, that's just ugly. But that's alright. Try and make the center of your hole the deepest part. What's in that little tiny hole? Maybe he has a little friend that's right over here. Once again, Bob Ross makes it into my art all the time. That's okay. That's just fine. You do what you want to do. Yeah, I don't like the flame burr for that part. I need to make those a little thinner. So we're going to shut it off. And we're going to switch to a different burr.